Good morning and welcome to Unusual Activity powered by Financial Juice with George Avedon and Milton Marmonides. Thank you for joining us this morning. Hopefully your weekend was pleasant. Just a quick check of the futures. Futures are risk on this morning, up 6.25 at 1900.75, call it. Certainly a slightly expected quieter day today. We do have the Columbus Day holiday. Federal, state, local authorities are closed today. Schools are closed. Bond markets are closed today as well. So it's just us equity guys. Let's get into a little bit of how we did on Friday and going to some of the more important news over the weekend and what's happening in the morning pre-market. In Friday's closed, industries closed at the lowest of the day. Dow Jones at 16,544.1 down, negative 6.69%. S&P 500 at 1906.13, down 1.15%, and the Nasdaq down 2.33% at 4276.24. Certainly was an interesting trading day on Friday. Certainly was a risk-off trade in the morning. Continued weakness during the day. Some attempt at a bit of attempt at some rallies during the day, but to no avail. So we did finish close to the lows of the day. Getting into this morning, a few things going on. Certainly keeping an eye on everything in the Middle East with respect to the Syrian airstrikes. Ukraine, Russia, ceasefire does seem to be in working. There was even reports of Russian troops being pulled away from the border. Now, this is on the heels of Russia now being really concerned about their own economy, certainly with commodities being lower, energy being lower. There's various information with respect to how Russia is dealing with all of this. Specifically, I believe the number was 4 billion with respect to buying of the ruble by the Russians. So again, this is not the first we're hearing of this. Various types of information was coming through last week, and it's not just Russia. There were several central banks that were purchasing currencies in the open market. So again, that's creating a little bit more of a nuanced situation geopolitically. Also, with sanctions, there was several articles out there with respect to the Russian-Chinese relationship. We've hinted at this some time back. The fact that the West is setting up sanctions for Russia. This doesn't mean that Russia cannot have a relationship with the Chinese. So that remains to be seen on how effective that relationship will be and what that effect is, both from a raw material perspective, both from a geopolitical perspective, and also just really trade and so forth. So really keeping an eye on that. Getting into, again, so today's a U.S. holiday. Equities are open, bonds are closed. With respect to it, really just Charles Evans is speaking at 12:30. Certainly opinions are out with respect to how effective the Fed has been with respect to QE. How effective what the thought process is on raising rates into the future. and whether they have quote unquote any bullets left. And this is something that Milt and I have been bringing up even with the guests that we're bringing on is does the Fed have any bullets left, quote unquote? Should this global slowdown affect the U.S. economy? So that should be interesting. And always looking for rhetoric, always looking for the proverbial pundits out there and the conversation around that. Baltic Dry Index falls 0.9% to 954 points. So we have seen some um, consistent dry index falling within the last few weeks. Again, this is just shipments of sea via sea of raw materials. So this is just an index of that. Moving on. Overnight in Asia, we had Nikkei down 1.15%, Hang Seng up quarter of a percent, Shanghai down 0.36%. In Europe, the FTSE, we are up in Europe across the board, which is a bit of an improvement from earlier this morning, and futures did improve since last night as well. So FTSE at up 0.42%, the CAC in Paris up 0.45%, and the DAX is up 0.62%. Currently, we have futures at a little bit higher, 7.75, call it 8, at 1902.00. So again, we're looking on for a risk on type of trade, and we'll get into the specifics of what we're looking for, specific levels that were broken on Friday, and what's the chatter coming into this morning. Again, so we've on the global economic front, we've talked about the Russian currency interventions, approximately 4 billion last week. Now, something to keep in mind, just a bit of a note. So oil and gas with respect to revenue for the Russian economy is just about half, so just about 50% as an effect on the Russian economy. So clearly, with the prices coming down, that has an absolute effect. The dollar strength versus the ruble, that should be multi-year lows. Excuse me, that'll be corrected immediately. So again, last week was approximately 4 billion. We'll see how that comes through. There's discussions in the European Union with respect to will Draghi's initial plan work? So we've been discussing this for quite some time, and you can check the repositories of some of the specifics that we're putting in links of how the growing concern of this negative numbers that are coming out from a macroeconomic perspective, and how the ECB will respond. There's even conversation of ECB engaging in a large-scale bond buying spree again. So really keeping an eye on that. Just one of the things that came up in statistics, European ETF drawdowns last week grew to 1 trillion. So quite a bit of concern, shall we say, with respect to the prospective slowdown in Europe. Now, sometimes, I personally see sometimes as this a possible contrarian indicator, right? So, who invests in ETF? It's the investors. Folks perhaps use this as a hedging, using the ETFs as hedges. When we look at these drawdowns, when we look at these I you know my opinion of this is sometimes it can act as a contrarian indicator. What's your view on this? Do you view these drawdowns as absolutely critical, or just kind of an interesting statistic? On the ETF, European ETF drawdowns, and kind of what that means, for the longer term, as you're trading these markets, as we, as traders are trading these markets. So the the thought is the action of drawing these down. Do we is this kind of a post mortem kind of thing? Did we see the volatility in the market and these people just got shaking? Did they get shaken out? You know,
Well,
um,
George, it's all on each person's mentality. It's people have to figure out what they if they feel comfortable in what they're doing, and if they don't, with this volatility lately, you can see a lot of people taking down sizes, taking down positions, and figuring out what needs to be done to protect their portfolios. The volatility has been key, and many people have not been handling volatility in the past couple of years. So it's going to be interesting to see what the outcome is going to be moving forward if this continues in every aspect, either in the European markets, the U.S., Asian. So you're going to see a lot of people undecided on exactly what to do because they have not been adjusted yet to this new level of volatility that we're having.
and that's a good point, and something that we've been bringing up over the last few weeks is this notion that we're entering this other this next level of volatility. We've seen a lot of complacency, right, Milt, over the last few months, and since I would say the 19th of September, well, we reached that high right around that date. We've seen a decrease in oil prices. We've seen a decrease in commodities. We've seen the S&P 500, the Dow, the Nasdaq, all across the board in Europe. We've seen a decline in indices, and the way I see this is that there are, as you said, just some investors, traders, will be shaken out. And what anything that you're looking at, just from a macro level, Milt, that would say, hey, you know what, I think enough is enough, or we've seen a bit of a purging, if you will. Anything that you're looking at on a more macro level that would say, I think we've seen a good amount of pain so far.
Well, technically, like I say, I always say, we look at this SPX. It hits extreme support on this SPX, so you can see some sort of a bounce in these markets. Regarding a macro look, things really have not adjusted much, and you still have the problems in Europe. Russia came out over the weekend saying that they're looking to pull back their troops from Ukraine. You had a couple more Ebola cases. As you can see, the Ebola names are going bananas again this morning. You have the feel is just not right, in my opinion. You had a lot of the Gartman contrarians out there. Gartman came out over the weekend and said that he can see a 10 to 15% drop. So people always talk about the contrarian indicators, and people always mention that fact. It's a little comical, but it's an interesting thought to have. Oil is a big key. You had Saudi Arabia, I believe, came out over the weekend and said they're comfortable with $80 oil, even 77 they mentioned. So it's excuse me. So it's interesting to see the reasoning behind that. Why they came out and say that? Are they expecting that to happen? Are they just telling people that no matter what level they go to, they can make money? It's a very interesting thought process regarding oils. Oil this morning is down another $1.12, trading at 84.70. Where is the level in this come out where it's going to stop? But many people have investments in oil or oil related vehicles. So it's tough to just be like, when is this going to stop? Macroeconomics, you had some positive news in China with their imports and exports. You have an interesting view on what's going on in Russia and Hong Kong as well. But I think the key is Europe. I think people have to keep an eye on Europe. Things don't look good there. You have a lot of things behind the scenes of what people are not talking about of what's going on regarding France, Greece, Italy, and now the scariest part, what's going on in Germany. If something happens in Germany, if the S&P comes out or they make comments regarding a negative look on Germany, things could really unravel. So a lot of people need to watch what's going on there. Everyone always mentions the fact people really don't know behind the scenes what goes on there, but like I always do your work because you can always find out. Do your research, talk to people, make some contacts, and you can get the real feel of what's going on overseas. But other than that, George, I look at this market, the rally 20 handles from overnight lows. So the question is can it sustain this rally, or is this something where the market's going to open it and they're going to crap out and we're going to be down on the day? Technically, I was speaking with a few people, traders over the weekend. Ideally, they would have loved to have seen a lower open in the markets with a vicious rally to show the fact that the bulls are going to win this one. But in all aspects, in all reality, with the ES up 8 handles right now, 8.5 handles, if they can't keep this move up, it's going to be another victory for the Bears.
And Mel, I think you bring up some good points. One of the things we brought up last week, and this is the fact that there are specifically with oil. So oil, we're currently at 84.60, down $1.23. So again, right around that 85 level, which is just remains to be a critical level here. But also from a geopolitical perspective, from a macroeconomic perspective, we're seeing OPEC nations dealing with China and Asia on their own. And Milton brought that up. The fact that Saudi Arabia is comfortable with the $80. Remember, every country has their unique perspective on where they want oil to be, and that's really critical. Um, Also, Germany, we brought up last week. What we always watch, and this is a little bit of this. We're going to give you and this is really important. This is we think about things is you almost have to use the what's somewhat commonly referred to as the mosaic theory, where you pull in ideas together to really it's kind of a pieces to the puzzle type thought process where we're watching what's the rhetoric coming out of Germany, what's the from Merkel and the finance ministers. Is there wrangling between Draghi and the finance minister out of Germany? Forgive me, the name just literally escaped me, but I think that's really pivotal here is watching the actions. And remember, Econ 101 always states that it's not what they do, it's not what finance ministers do or central bankers do, it's what they say as well. What's that intention of doing something into the future? I mean, that's Econ 101, guys. Where you're constant. That's why we're always looking for the rhetoric. We're always looking for, because markets respond to that. Markets respond to an idea. Markets respond to this notion of what's happening in the future, or what possibly central bankers will do in the future. So one of the things I wanted to we wanted to kind of come up, and we put this in the repository. We the U.S. dollar, right? So if we take a look at in the DXY. So this is a really simple chart, guys. The first chart is a 3 month. The next month is a 1 year, and the next chart is a 3 year. So what you see is in the very first chart here is the DXY. The red is the red line chart is S&P 500, and the yellowy green is the Dow Jones oil and gas industry. So you really see this the effect of the U.S. dollar, and we've been discussing this, and the how The S&P 500 responds to that respectively, and certainly oil and gas. So again, we put this in the repository. You see the last 3 months, the candles are a daily chart, um, and you see everything's a daily. You see the next chart here is a 1 year. You see the strength in the U.S. dollar with respect to, and then conversely, you see the effect of the S&P 500 and the oil and gas industry within the Dow Jones. One of the things that came out over the weekend is this notion that with QE, the intention was to have a weaker dollar, and thereby, um, you don't have that effect on specific on commodities and energy prices. One of the things that we've seen and we've been talking about this is this proverbial effect of what happens when QE ends, right? And um, we feel that we haven't seen exactly what the market is thinking as QE is ending. So again, very interesting to think about. We'll put this in the repository, and uh, we'll go from there. Also, we're putting in, just as a comparison, folks. We do this often in terms of in our own during the day. Is really putting up a chart for yourself of, for example, the VIX. You've seen this is a 3 month VIX. This is just for giggles. I put in, for example, the biotech index in line with the S&P 500. S&P 500 since what the top mill, I would say September 19th, right? We've seen this precipitous decline within the S&P 500. Certainly, we had the decline in the commodities and energy prices. We've seen this comparatively, at least within the last 3 months, you see this rip up in the VIX, and that's just in the last 3 months. We go a little bit further out. We go into the 1 year. We've seen, some time back when the VIX did increase that much, but at the same time, we haven't really seen the VIX stay. I believe it touched 20 mil on Friday, correct?
Friday? No, it hit a high of 22.
Hive 22, correct. But and checking on the VIX, where let's see, bear with me one moment here. Um, the thing is having the VIX, it finished the day. Excuse me, I stand corrected. It high of 22.06 and finished the day 21.24. It's really critical whether or not the VIX is going to drop back down below the 20. So we've noted those levels. On the VIX, any specific levels that we're monitoring here that really could indicate another level of volatility stabilizing here.
Well, looking at the VIX, we have to literally go back years to see on a chart right now. It seems like the level right now that it hit on Friday, it seems to have been resistance at 22 level. 22 to 23 seems to be the next level of resistance. But in all reality, George, if that level is broken, the 23, 24, this thing has nothing till in all reality till like 34, 35. So at this point, we're keeping a close eye on this. We're keeping a close eye of the mid 20s for resistance. If that level is broken, and with consistency, we can see a sharp increase in this to the 30s even. So we're keeping a close eye on that. We're going to watch and see if it goes back to support. Support now, it was at 14. Now we're looking at about a 15 level support. It seems to have ticked up a little bit. So we're currently looking at that number, 15, 16 support level. It's a wide range for the VIX. 15, 16 support on the VIX. Looking at 22, 23 resistance, and if that level is broken, we have to be careful at that point, because the next level, in all reality, is in the 30s, mid 30s. So until that, hopefully we can, get some more insight on it throughout the trading day today. But that's what we're seeing right now, George.
Thanks, Milt. And one of the things that I want to bring up, and I know Milt, you watch this very very closely, is this idea that this market is propelling, um, you know, not great results in hedge funds, correct? And so what happens is this cascade effect. If hedge funds have to, for example, there's drawdowns, there's various other funds, drawdowns, there's uh, withdrawals from ETF type of funds. There's cascading effects, correct? There's money managers, hedge fund managers have to react to that. So if there's drawdowns, they have to. There could be a cascading effect to that effect on other securities that they're holding, correct? And there's large holders within these hedge funds of even smaller names. So one of the things that I'm watching is as these drawdowns come through. For example, we talked about GTAT last week, right? What effect can that have on other holdings, other positions within those hedge funds? My feeling is it's going to have an effect because if clients decide to pull out money, I think that will maybe put this market into another uh, position where larger larger holders of these securities will have to reduce their positions, right? So a couple of other things that we're looking at, a couple of things coming through the wire. We're gonna go through some of the news that's making news this morning. First, of course, we want to get into the Ebola. Bear with you as we're okay. So Ebola stock list is growing. Um, as you can see here, this is always in our repository. TKMR, NNVC, BCRX, GSK. Remember, GlaxoSmithKline are the ones that are in process of developing a vaccine. Um, RPT is a real estate company, and the reason what we put on there is, from a social perspective, when someone is, when they're concerned about Ebola and how that translates into activity, maybe less people will be going to malls, and there will be other cascading effects. So NLNK, INO, SRPT, HEB, APT, IBIO. I believe IBIO. Let's take a look at IBIO. I think that was one of the bigger movers this morning. IBIO this morning is at $2.80, actually near the high of the morning. Finished the day close to $1.89. So again, really seeing that move up in the morning. Remember, we have the Spain situation. There's investigation, with that nurse Dallas case. There's that second confirmed case. There's some scare over the weekend with respect to Boston, other locations. So I think we're going to see this continue. This activity within the stocks going to continue, and really, um, what we do is when we're tracking these particular stocks is having not a basket of stocks to trade, but really creating a list for yourself and tracking these stocks and how they respond to specific news, and that's really important. So you have that there. That's going to be in the repository. Milt, anything else that's coming on the Ebola? We have TKMR, various other securities. It's just a bit of a fear factor, don't you think? I
Yeah,
mean,
George.
it's
When it comes down to it, right now, you're in a situation now where every other day or every day you're gonna have a fear factor of, oh my God, I have Ebola. It's comical in a way because I was reading some studies over the weekend. It seemed since we had the thing in Dallas, there are thousands, tens of thousands of cases of people going to the hospital thinking they have Ebola when all they have is maybe even the simple cold. Because it's very difficult. The symptoms for it are not something tragic where you can be like, oh my God, I have this, I have Ebola. No, it's a cough, a fever, vomiting. It's a typical flu symptoms in a way. So you're going to have the constant scare. People are going to. It's going to be in the news because it's so hard to detect. We had how many over the weekend? Another airplane in California. You had something in New York. something in Boston. So it seems like the fear factor is full speed ahead as of now. Until that happens, until that ends, these Ebola names are going to have extreme volatility. You can have extreme moves to the upside and the downside. If it gets out of the news for a day or two, you'll see it sell off. Then all of a sudden, boom, it's back in the news again, and these things will rocket up another 10 to 15%. Have a list, keep them on your watch list. Whenever you see or hear or mention the word Ebola in the news, they're always going to react. So you're going to have a trade no matter what in that sector because they are in vogue now. Just like those cameras when that person was shot in I think it was Missouri.
Yes,
The
DGLY and
DGLYs and
Taser.
all
Correct.
those,
Right. Right.
those had moves for days. And this is something where it's a worldwide thing, so it's always going to be in the news. So this could have consistent volatility to the upside and downside. Put them on a watch list, watch them, keep an eye on them. If you feel the need for some adrenaline trades, those are the ones that are going to be the ones that are going to have the volatility. IBIO, perfect example that George just mentioned. This thing was trading at what, 60 cents, 24 cents in June. It's trading over $2.67 this morning. So these are the names that are going to have the volatility. This is the sector that's vogue right now. This is a sector where you want to day trade it, you can look at it, watch it, but it's going to be actionable throughout until this ends, which I don't see it happening soon. There's always going to be trade in this area.
No, that's a good point, Milt. And the other piece is you're constantly going to experience or see news coming out with respect to specific stocks, whether there's articles written on specific stocks. So I think that's really critical. Just keep a very good head on your shoulders with respect to these particular securities. Sometimes they will move at will on just sporadic moves. So again, create a list for yourself, whatever software that you're using, and just monitor them. Get your head around how to trade these securities, and certainly keep in mind technical levels. But again, some of these moves are rather erratic. So a bit of caution on that. Want to run through on the top insider purchases. We have SD, 44,000 shares. SD director purchasing at $3.87. Currently in pre-market indicating at $3.70. SCS. We have director purchasing 5,000 shares at $15.31. No indication yet for the pre-market. PRPH, 10% owner, purchasing 284,000 shares of $1.30. Nothing yet in pre-market. Relatively low volume securities, but again, interesting to see that coming out. I'm sorry, OHAI, again, relatively low volume stock. Director purchases just under 18,000 shares at $6.23. No indication yet in pre-market. BTX, let's see, director purchased 32,000 shares. No indication yet. Last closed the day at just around $3.21. So again, what you see is during the day, when these director purchases come out, they do have a little bit more impact on the particular security with respect to volume and price volatility. Um, Pre-market it's a slightly muted response. Moving on, so in the news, Citi positive on GPN, VNVT, GPO, EXLS, WNS, and G. They believe that they can sustain the volatility, or the volatility within the securities will be less even with the volatile market. Also, they were discussing Garmin and GoPro with respect to the variable market. So Garmin currently no indication yet in pre-market. GoPro, as you know, we've been bringing this up in last several days on just the elation of certain stocks, and again, there's some analysts come out, they're a bit negative on it. There's still some positive things that are being said about these stocks. So again,
George,
yes,
one thing
please.
on GoPro, I was reading something very interesting over the weekend that many people are not even talking about. It seems like this GoPro, many people in these, the high activity type things where they
Yes.
videotape everything.
Yes.
There was a study done through some. I'm gonna try to find the article so we can have it on the thing. But they said that the fact that the people have emphasized this GoPro so much, it's become to a point where it's an extreme distraction and people are getting physically hurt
Yes.
just by using the product because they want to make sure that it's done correctly. They do this, and it's become a fad in a way where a lot of negative press has been coming around little by little. People getting hurt, people getting this, people getting that, just to impress on these GoPros. So you're gonna see, a lot of negative things coming out, I think, lately on this thing. But be careful on it.
Absolutely. And one of the things that came out over the weekend was Schumacher, correct? There was that article that I believe his skiing accident, and there was some
Yes, that's it, George, right there too.
indication that the way that the camera was on the helmet and the way that the helmet cracked, it may have had an impact on that. So again, um, take these articles with a grain of salt. But again, these are active names. Put the stock on a list. If you're not actively trading this particular security, understand how it trades and understand how specific news impact these particular securities. Just came out over the wire. CSX, Note Surface Transportation Board, declared a moratorium on big deal in rail space in 2000. So again, CSX, note coming out on declared a moratorium on big deal in rail space. So if we take a look at CSX, bear with me. CSX at $33.02 this morning, certainly higher than the close on Friday of $29.90. Also, Tesla coming out ahead of basically Wall Street Journal saying that they're ahead on other car manufacturers with respect to semi-autonomous driving systems. Tesla currently at 238, $238.80 in pre-market. We'll see how that. There was a bit of a surge in volume towards the close of the day. It did close near the lows of the day on Friday, but again, we'll see how things progress as we move into closer to the open. Um, some notable. So Barron's just commented on some stocks over the weekend. Again, there's so many publications available, so we're going to try to just to provide as much information as we can with respect to what could move these particular securities. So Barron's commented on Micron. Looked more attractive currently. Micron up at $28.48. Rio Tinto shares could climb 20%. Rio higher this morning quite a bit, $49.60 currently. Uh, uh, Finished the day on Friday at 47.77. Um, WMT, Walmart, and DSW could benefit from holiday sales. Walmart, no indication yet on pre-market. DSW, we have also no indication yet. Finished the day at just around $30.10. GE, General Electric, could return 25%. Um, Currently pre-market at $24.32. A couple of other stocks that look cheap. BWA, Borg Warner, nothing yet in pre-market. Closed near $51.86. DLPH, Delphi Automotive, finished the day $60.35. No indication yet for pre-market and GNTX. No indication. Slight indication. Pre-market at 27.80. Excuse me. So that's on the look cheap category according to Barron's. VCS shares could rise 25%. Current indication about $64.44. So, a couple of more things in the news. Jeffries upgrades AstraZeneca from buy to hold. AstraZeneca currently at $69.95 in pre-market. Um, HOLD price target $80. No indication yet pre-market. And there were some comments on various communication media securities. We'll put that in the repository. Again, what we put this in is it may not have an immediate effect in these particular securities, but it's good to know what analysts are thinking about. Good to know what larger and more boutique analysts are especially in this volatile market, and what effect that will have. Um, TKAI, Stifel Nicholas initiates Takai Pharmaceutical with a buy. Currently, we have pre-market indicators at $12.35. So again, really, really important to note where the analysts see these particular securities. So moving on. Few IPOs today. You see the symbols there. Again, we'll see that. We'll put this up in our repositories. Let me make this a bit bigger here. Um, so we'll make that more readable for you. Also, syndicates. Now remember, syndicates are uh, companies that are seeking more funding. It tends to be a dilutive effect. For XXII files to sell 5.12 million shares for holders. MWE files to sell 1.5 billion of dollars of common units. Very slight indication currently at $70.90 for MWE. RNO, we have files to sell 6.64 million common units of holders at currently nothing indicating yet on that. Finished the day at $10.88. So that's files to sell 6.64 million common shares to holders. And IAU, we have IAU, excuse me. IAU files to sell 80.7 million shares representing beneficial interest. So currently in pre-market, currently indicating $11.89, slightly higher. Actually, no, that's iShares, excuse me. Slightly higher than the close on Friday. So typically, as we said, it does tend to be a dilutive effect for the particular security. So moving on here, we're gonna put a basic repository of upgrades, downgrades that we're seeing initiate for specific. There's just a huge amount on a morning basis. We'll pick out some that are critical here. Some of a few things that are coming out with respect to um, uh, takeovers. We have NTCT agrees to acquire communications business of Don and Hare DHR for 2.6 billion. NTCT currently at 41. Nothing indicating yet. Finished the day 41.91, and DHR. Um, nothing actually a little bit of a nothing indicating. Yeah, it seems as though it's $71, $71 even, but we'll see how that turns out. STO, we have sold 15.5% share in Shah Deniz to Petronas for 2.2 billion. Stock currently at indicating $24.90. Stairs to acquire Synergy Health for 1.9 billion in cash. Um, so STA. I'm sorry, STE currently indicating pre-market 57.75. Luxottica LUX. Um, CEO Enrico intends to submit resignation, so that's currently having effect on the security at $48.15. BA Boeing, we have at currently indicating $122.06. Um, uh, Department of Justice ordered Boeing BA to pay 23 million dollars to resolve False Claims Act allegations. So BA currently is still indication of $122.06. Kmart, Sears, CHLD reported payment data systems breach. So currently indicating at $24.64, slightly below that close on Friday. A couple of other things that's flying through, coming through the desks. Uh, SFLY Shutterfly reported Silver Lake drops effort to acquire Shutterfly. Here in talks were for $50 a share. Currently, Shutterfly at $43.51. ALNY issues encouraging update from Patisiran Phase 2. So ALNY up in pre-market this morning, $81.50. CSX, as we've said, also some other news from Wall Street Journal. Canadian Pacific approached CSX about merger. CSX currently at $33.10. LAD Lithium Motors lighter Q3 earnings per share lighter than expected. So LAD currently at quite a bit of a decline of 72 even closed the day at just around $80, 80 cents, about down 10%. So really watching that. Um, so what we want to do before we wish you a good day is just to run through where we are on the futures and commodity energy prices and in Europe. So currently Europe still up across the board. FTSE up 0.47%. CAC is down 0.39%. DAX down 58.58. We have the futures up 5.5, so at 1899.75, so slightly lower than we were when we started the show. Crude oil, so right around that 1900. So keeping an eye on that. Crude oil at down $1.13 at 84.70. Certainly that 85 level is key. 85, 85.50. Certainly a lot of banks were discussing that 86 level in oil as well as a quote unquote buying opportunity. So really keeping an eye on that. Gasoline down 0.0262, 2.2316. Heating oil down 0.0178 at 2.5424. And the 10-year, as we know, it's not trading today at 2.286. So again, really keeping an eye on that. So just as a reminder, today's Columbus Day. Treasuries do not trade today. So the anticipations for this to be a lower volume day. A lower volume day typically means that you may have some swings in the market because perhaps there's less participants. There's a little bit, perhaps a little bit easier to move certain securities without all the participants there. So that it sounds kind of interesting. So keeping an eye on that. So certainly we'll continue to post information into the newsroom as we hear it under unusual activity. Keep an eye on these Ebola stocks. Certainly, news is nonstop there. So we thank you for joining us. This has been Unusual Activity, powered by Financial Juice. This has been George Avedon and Milton Marmonides. Happy hunting.